sa bukod, tingnan pa lang sa lahat ng media. Media educators have worked hard to defend press freedom.
This corruption in media will introduce
This woman from Sorsogon is a force to be reckoned with. After her husband passed away, Loida Nicolas-Lewis was left to take charge of his multi-billion business, TLC Beatrice International Holdings Incorporated. She became its CEO and chairman. Coming from a family of entrepreneurs, she has successfully managed the corporation of 64 companies based in 31 countries. Her success won her recognition by Working Woman magazine in 1994 as #1 in their top 50 women business owners in America. As a lawyer, she was the first Asian and first Filipino to take the American bar and pass. Later in her career, she worked as an immigrations lawyer at the Immigration and Naturalization Services for 10 years. It was while working for them that she thought of writing books on immigrations law. As a Filipina, she recognized the plight of every Filipino residing in the U.S. and has founded several organizations, including National Federation of Filipino-American Associations and U.S. Pinoys for Good Governance. One of her present advocacies is fighting the aggressiveness of China towards the Philippine territories.
China, the sleeping dragon, has awakened, and they need oil.
She has 2 daughters with her late husband, Leslie and Christina. After the death of her husband, Loida was left to take care of their children and be their mother and their father, always making sure that she had time to spend with them despite her busy schedule. She sometimes babysits her 3 grandchildren who call her Nanay. Attorney Loida Nicolas-Lewis is a remarkable woman who has surpassed many obstacles life has given her, to which she credits her personal relationship with God and the support of her family. Good evening. You're watching News Cafe on the Solar News Channel. Tonight, in celebration of Mother's Day, we have with us a phenomenal woman who has raised the bar high and broken barriers for women and Filipinos around the world. She is a lawyer, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, social civic leader, author, mother, and grandmother. We have with us tonight Attorney Loida Nicolas-Lewis. Good evening, Mrs. Lewis.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for letting us into your home to interview you.
Thank you, Mitzi.
Now, there's many superlatives when it comes to you have broken barriers in every sense of the word, and namely, after graduating from the Philippine bar, you went to the United States without studying law there, and also you were the first Asian woman to pass the bar. What was that experience like?
If you are a non-citizen before 1974, you could not take the bar.
Yeah.
But because the Supreme Court of the United States said that citizenship is not a qualification to take the bar, I was the first Filipino who applied immediately because University of the Philippines is one of 2 universities, College of Law, that's accepted in New York.
Yes.
So what was it like? Well, I knew I had to pass it the first time because I just had a baby, Leslie, my oldest child, and I had to exile her to Baltimore. That's around 3 months so that I could study not 24/7, but 16, 17 hours a day. And if I don't pass it, I don't want to exile her again.
Yeah.
So I really studied hard, and I passed the first time.
A little bit of a sacrifice you had to do as a mother in order to pass the bar.
Yes.
Now, did you have aspirations always of studying in the U.S.? I mean, you came from Sorsogon. So when you were a child, were you dreaming of traveling the world?
No, not at all. My father, who was, modest means, he was a scholar in high school and in UP, wanted to be a lawyer. So his dream for me was to be the lawyer of the family out of 5 children, go into politics so that he even named the movie theater when I was 9 years old after me, Loida Theater.
Wow.
So when I go into politics, I will have name recognition. So my life was sort of, geared by my father. Going to the United States was like a gift when I became a lawyer. My sister, my younger sister, was taking masters at Columbia Art School when she graduated. And so when I finished law and I became a lawyer, my father said, okay, round the world trip with your mother, come back to the Philippines, then we'll start your career.
Wonderful.
So going to the United States or even studying there or even marrying was not in the cards.
Yes. And this is where you met Reginald Lewis. Of course, I heard you met him on a blind date
Yes.
in the U.S.
Yes.
So it was love at first sight?
No. I don't fall in love easily. I was working because we arrived September and my sister was graduating in May. So what do? At that time, it was not too strict. Even if I had a tourist visa, I started to work in a civil rights law firm. And my boss was from Harvard Law School. I introduced him to my sister, and he was going out on a date. Loida, do you want to go out on a date? Blind date? And I said, sure, why not? Adventure.
Yeah.
And so he called, that's when he called Reginald Lewis, a classmate of his at Harvard Law School. And the funny thing is that he almost didn't make it. He said, as a lawyer, you work so hard. You don't have time really for anything. But when he said, when my boss said, oh, that's too bad, you cannot come. She's from the Philippines. So Reginald Lewis said, wait, I have never dated an Oriental before. I'm coming.
It was an adventure also for him.
It's an adventure. He's always ready for new things.
Right. And the rest is history, because after that, you had to return to the Philippines.
Well, actually, after 7 months, we decided to get married. No. We met in December. We decided we'll marry in May, around May. But then I got cold feet. Because then, oh my God, I'm going to leave my country, my family, my friends, my ambition.
Right.
And so I said, no, I can't go through with it.
Yeah.
So my sister and I were going back to Manila. And on the way, I was just so sad because I know in my heart, having studied in UP College of Law, Jojo Binay was my classmate. Franklin Dillon was in my, Miriam Defensor, I was with the best of the best.
Yeah.
And having been in UP and having met Reginald Lewis, I knew he was special. And so just on the way to San Francisco, I was so sad. And even, in fact, meeting my friends, UP in Stanford, Melly was, Loida, ano ka ba naman? Because I wasn't talking. Talagang very dark. And one of my friends, Jerry Hill, he had died already, said, Loida, if you're that sad, why don't you just call him? I never thought of that. Tawag ako, darling, I'm coming back.
Yeah, you once said when it comes to the head and the heart wins. This is
Not
what happened
always,
to you.
but in this case, it did.
Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I knew in my heart that, somebody like him, I won't meet again.
Yeah. As you said, he was very intense, and so were you. So
Yes,
it's almost
but
like
he
a
was
mirror
more
of
intense.
yourself.
He was more intense.
Right,
Not so much a mirror, better than me. His ambition was higher than mine.
Yeah.
His vision, he can go around the corner, the next corner. Ako narito pa lang. And then he's more intensive, very intense.
You called him a tutor. He taught you a lot of things.
Well, in the sense that I'm a good student. So I listened to him because he's really better than I am. And so I learned, I changed, I was more or less go.
Yeah.
But with him, I became a woman.
Well, behind every great man is a greater woman, they say. So he said you were his confidant. You gave him a lot of advice with the business.
No. It's not like that. He's not someone who says, who says, what do you think? It's always he will talk. And then when I think there's a proper time to give my advice, I would not advise. It's really just my thoughts.
Right.
Okay? And then he would listen. In fact, at one time, when the deal was getting so hard, this is the Beatrice deal, and it's almost, falling through. I said, don't worry, darling. You'll make it. And I said, what do you know about the deal business? I said, I don't know anything, but I know you'll get it through.
Yeah.
Okay, so, it's not so much advice. It's really encouraging him. Being an African American in America, it's tough.
Yes.
So he will constantly receive, subtle put-downs, insults, actual discrimination. So as his wife, I have to be sort of like, give him the confidence. Even if I think he should not have said that. He said it already.
Yeah.
So, you say, no, that was good. Don't worry about it. You always have to give him confidence.
Right.
So that's the way
It's challenging to keep up a marriage, and you had 20 years together.
24.
24.
We never
Okay,
made
sorry.
it to 25.
Oh, 24. And you faced quite a lot of challenges with the position he was holding at Beatrice. You moved to Paris, and this is where you said it was very difficult because you would get these jealous moments. Him having to travel a lot. Tell us about that.
Well, marriage generally with Reginald Lewis was not easy because of that. Very intense. It's like a rocket ship. But I was able to, especially in Paris, because he would live 1 month in New York, 1 month with us in Paris. And then he himself said, Loida, I want you to know that I had dinner with so-and-so. Single woman, beautiful, and siempre, you know, the jealousy comes through. So that was very difficult. It was very, very painful. But, you know, God is always good because I started a prayer group in St. Joseph, the only Catholic, English-speaking Catholic church in Paris. Yeah. And we would meet every Friday, and one of them became very close to me, Nora Brady from Ireland. So one time we were talking, and she could see that there's something bothering me. So she said, Loida, why don't you read St. Paul's letter to Corinthians, which is really the definition of love. And so that saved me because, you know, love is patient. Loida is patient. What does that mean? Love is kind. Loida is kind. So I went through and integrated it within myself. Right. And after that, he can do no wrong. You know, it's loving unconditionally, and that saved me.
Well, how was it like as parents yourselves, you know, raising 2 daughters together, given your busy schedules? Were you very...
Well, no. You know, when I got married, having married a guy who's hard-charging, I made a decision that he's the one who's going to go out there and make money. Okay? Not that I stayed home and be just a housewife. I also was working, but I was working with the government. It's strictly 9 to 5. So both of us agreed that there will be not too many rules. Very simple rules. First rule, respect your elders. So, you know, sometimes my older daughter is very feisty, and she had received a whipping, you know. So respect your elders, meaning respect me, respect your parents, respect grandparents. Number 2, do your job. And their job is to study. So what if the room is messy? So what if she colors her hair green? But you must study. So just simple rules. Yeah.
And do you think they pass this on to their grandchildren? Because you have 3 grandchildren now.
I have 3 grandchildren. Yeah. Both of them graduated from Harvard, cum laude. And my younger daughter...
Oh, this is Leslie and Christina.
Leslie and Christina, yes. Both of them graduated. So that's the kind of, we hope, successful parenting in that they were able to direct their minds to really excel academically. Right. So both of them are married. In fact, Christina got married here in San Agustin, and she has a 2.5-year-old son.
She wore your wedding dress at the wedding, I heard.
That's
Altered,
right.
Of course.
That's right. Yes, I was able to keep the wedding dress that I had by Valera. Yeah. And, you know, she had it, altered so that it's 2010, wow. 2011.
Yeah. Well, we may step back a little. When Reggie, your husband, got sick in 1993, and then he passed after 6 weeks, is that right? What was it like having to raise the children on your own?
And unang-una, it was the last thing I could expect, that my husband would die at 50. So I was totally discombobulated. And it took me a few months, before I got hold of myself. Yeah. And, I'm always thankful that I was raised, Catholic, Christian, because I never lost faith in God. I know that God will not abandon me. So raising those 2 kids, I know, will be my first priority. I will be mother and father to them. Yeah. So I saw to it that every evening, because my younger daughter, Leslie was already at Harvard, my younger daughter is with me. So every evening, whatever I do, whether I will be home for her to have dinner together. And just keep up. And whenever she would go out, I would not sleep, because it's New York. Who knows what happened. So I tell her, I'll wait. You have a deadline. You have a curfew. Yes. So if you cannot make it, you have to call me. And she was true to that. Right. So you have to be, it's like you cannot hold soap too tight. You will disform it. That's right. But you cannot also hold it too loose because it will fall off your hand. So that's the balance you have to do.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Raising up, especially teenagers, that's the toughest.
Very difficult time, yes. But also, this is the time where you took over your husband's business. Suddenly, you became the head. How was that? Because you took over this billion-dollar business suddenly.
It was not easy making that decision. As I said, I was, I I was out of kilter for maybe 6 months. And then after 6 months, you know, with God's help, never losing faith, I said, what are the things? First, my children, priority. Second, the business. He spent his life reaching that part, so it cannot fail. Failure was not an option. And so I was trying to help his successor, my brother-in-law, to run the business. But, you know, sometimes you're a very good number 2 man, but you cannot be a good number 1, and that was what was happening. His decisions were so far from, you know, good business decisions. So by the time the year is over, I was trying, in fact, I did interview CEOs.
Oh.
First of all, they were all white.
Okay.
All male. Not that I have anything to do with, you know, against men or against white people, but that this is an African-American company.
Right.
It would have been better if they say, all right, you know, you hire me, I'll make it succeed. But when I asked them, you know, can I have an assurance? Said, I'll try my best. My God, try my best. So what if you fail?
It's not enough.
You know, that's not enough.
Yeah.
And so in the end, after prayer, I knew that I have to take over. So it was very daunting. I mean, $2 billion company, how do you run it all over the world?
And you were facing men at most of your meetings all the time.
Okay. So, but what's important is discernment.
Yes.
Able to see what is the situation. So I knew that the executives that my husband left, not all of them are, you know, katugma, you know, with me. So I fired 50% of our corporate office. Unang-una, ang baba-baba. Our, you know, a strong leader died. Okay, 50% of our business is in ice cream. And that summer, that when the year he died, it rained in Spain and Germany and France and north, you know, the northern,
Parts
in Norway.
Yeah.
Patay. The business went down. So when I took over, it was very simple. You know, your earnings are down, your income is down, your earnings are down, and your expenses are high.
Yeah.
What do? You have to cut expenses.
Right.
So that's what I did.
Do you think that it's this women's instinct that really got you through? Because there's something about how women can just perceive certain things. You know, that
Yes, not so much I'm a woman, but I am raised by my father and mother who are both business people.
Yes.
You know, Papa was making deals when I was little, as we are on the Rampiolas or on the seashore. Magkano yung isda? Mahal naman. Ganito lang. So you hear that, you know, making deals. So there was an inner, that's one. I have entrepreneurial parents. Number 2, I also prayed every day to clear my mind because you're faced with many things. Okay, so how do you decide? Okay, so God in your inner guidance will sort of show you.
Right.
Okay, and then number 3, to have that perception, sino ang magaling dyan? So when I dismissed them, I hired only 2. You know, a lawyer, the man who introduced me to my husband.
Wow.
I took him back because he knows me before I was anybody.
Yeah.
So he will be my extra eye and ear.
And you can trust
my
him.
My sister, Loida Nicolas, who is now Secretary of Commission on Filipino Overseas with President Noynoy, because I need a very close person who can tell me, Loida, mali yan yata,
Right.
you know. And then the man who funded my husband's first deal as my CFO. Those were the only things. Everybody else, I dismissed.
Wow, quite a team you had there.
Yes.
Now, shortly after that, you made it as on the Working Woman magazine in 1994 as the top 50 women business owners in America. And shortly after that, also the top businesswoman in America because you steered the company to the $2 billion revenue. How did you feel? More pressure, huh? for getting
Well, you
something
know,
like this?
you don't really look at the whole thing. You go 1 foot, my husband would say, you know, don't be intimidated because it was intimidating. You just put 1 foot in front of the other. You know where you're going. You have to be very clear on where you're going. And where I'm going, you have to make the company profitable.
Right.
Okay? So what do you have to do? The debt is so high. If the debt is so high, bring it down. How do you do that? Sell some companies.
Yeah.
So we did. So by the end of my second year in 1997, I had 0 debt. You know, leverage buyout, my husband bought it, borrowed all the money, sold some companies. So he bought it for $1 billion. At the day of closing, he sold half of the business. So the debt is only $500 million. And then when he took over the business, he sold another supermarket, you know, in Alsace-Lorraine. And so the debt is only $350. When I took over, I had a 350 debt. And so I sold another company, so it's zero debt.
Wow.
And I was able to sell it for equal to 1 billion.
Yeah. My gosh, that's quite, I mean, all this time, how is it with the kids? Because you wonder, when you're doing this kind of work, do you really have, did you raise the kids and did you have help? I mean, family was nearby.
Well, I had asked my mother-in-law, and
Yeah.
I call her mom, the mother of my husband. We are
Yes.
very, very close.
Yeah.
So she stayed with me for a year. Because, you know, running the business, you have to fly to Europe.
All over the world also.
Well, yes.
Well,
so whenever I fly, I ask my mother-in-law to come. And then, so I stay. I don't want just help. We did have help.
Right. Well, we'll be talking more about that. We'll hear more about your life. But for now, we have to take a short break. Please stay tuned on News Cafe.
Saka sa bukod, yun ang panakasalanan ng media educators and learners.
Okay, Mrs. Lewis, can you tell us about some of these wonderful moments?
Yes, yes. Well, this was in the first election of President Obama. When Hillary lost, of course, I supported him. As soon as the president comes to me, please take our picture. That's why, kuha. You know,
Nice
Mr.
one.
President, can we get a picture?
Hey, what are the other favorite moments you might have?
Well, this was our, when he was inaugurated, 200 of us U.S. Pinoys came here, and you know, that's when we got this one.
Yeah.
In his inauguration.
You're still watching News Cafe on the Solar News Channel, and we're talking to Attorney Loida Nicolas. So let's talk more about your career in the U.S. You spent 10 years, no, as the General Attorney in the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service, long name, which is now the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. How was that like?
Well, you know, they didn't accept me at the beginning when I applied. So I sued them for discrimination.
Which you won. You won
Yes,
this case.
I won it. After 3 years, so they gave me 3 years back pay, you know, 3 months sick leave and all that. So how was that? I saw to it that I was a very good immigration lawyer. But at the same time, having been a foreigner myself, being very, very understanding of the plight of the illegal aliens that come before me. So I was fair, but I was also merciful, if you can have justice and mercy at the same time.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that very much.
And this is what basically gave you the fuel to write your book.
Well,
You wrote
when my
some of the
husband bought Beatrice International, and since the business is in Europe, we moved to Paris. Well, between INS and Paris, that's no-brainer.
Yeah.
But when I was in Paris, you know, you can only study French and go shopping. So I decided I have so much knowledge about immigration that I would write a book.
Yeah.
So my husband said, all right, rent a room so that I would be very focused on writing the book, and I did write the book, which is, the first book is how a Filipino veteran of World War II can become a U.S. citizen. Because in the 1990s, the Supreme Court held, or actually the U.S. Congress passed a law that if you are a Filipino veteran of World War II, during the time, they took away the naturalization officer in the Philippines. And so that was a big, big injustice. So now in 1990, you can become an American citizen if you can prove that you are a U.S. Veteran of World War II.
Yes. And after that, how to get a green card.
And
This is
then
the
after
other-
that, how to get a green card.
And this is
yes.
an issue that many Filipinos were really dealing with at the time.
Well, not only any illegal alien,
Alien, that's
TNT.
true.
And it's still being published up to now. I know it's being, so my copyright percentage is
Yes.
reduced, but
Now
it
this
still has
8th
my
edition,
name.
right? That's
Yes,
so successful.
It's now on its 8th edition, yes.
Yeah. Well, you started many organizations, including the National Federation of Filipino-American Associations, the Asian American Legal Defense and Educational Fund, and the U.S. Pinoys for Good Governance. And of course, there's the Reginald Lewis Foundations. So you are a big leader in the Philam community. What would you say are the top concerns of our Filipinos abroad?
Well, for now, as U.S. Pinoys for Good Governance, it is what they call TPS, Temporary Protective Status, simply because it's granted by the United States immigration law that if your country is hit by natural disaster that's so massive that the entire country can be dislocated, or if your country is under civil war, U.S. government can say, all right, anyone, any national from that country who are illegal can stay temporarily in the United States. So it's called TPS, Temporary Protective Status. And since the monster Yolanda, the
Yes.
Typhoon Haiyan, hit the Visayas, you know, there has been a clamor among Filipino Americans, even among the National Catholic Conference League, from the Latino organization, to declare Filipino nationals in the United States, you know, TPS status, meaning to say no deportation, you are given work authorization.
Yeah.
So that's the burning issue. And I was so disappointed when President Obama, who just visited, did not declare TPS. And thinking it over, I think it was politically correct because he's just signed the, you know, advanced defense agreement.
The enforced defense, yes.
Yes,
cooperation.
with President Noynoy. And so para bang napakasagwa, quid pro quo, because you signed this, I'll give your national in the U.S. to TPS, or, you know, work authorization.
Right.
So he didn't do it.
Yeah.
But I hope they will do it,
Yeah.
you know, in the months to
So
come.
you'll be lobbying for that still.
We are still lobbying.
Yes. Well, since you brought it up, what are your thoughts on the EDCA, the enforced defense?
I am so glad that they did it. Why? Because in the past 3 years, China has been looming large like a big bully, saying, you know, this is ours. 200 nautical miles from our shore has always been ours since 1992, when the United Nations Convention of Law of the Sea declared that 200 nautical miles from your shore belongs to you. And you can exploit whatever minerals are there. Of course, there are places where there are several countries. But Palawan, you know, between Palawan and China are deposits of 100 billion barrels of
A lot
oil.
of natural, yes.
And trillion cubic feet of natural gas. So there's nobody else except China and the Philippines. China is 500 nautical miles. In 200 nautical, sa atin talaga yun. So China has been very aggressive in saying, amin yan. First, Mischief Island. Okay? First, they said, no, we will just put a little house for our fishermen. Now, there is a 4-story garrison. So, nawala na sa atin yun. A year ago, I think it's Scarborough Shoal. These are nothing but rocks.
Right.
And during high tide, nawawala. But it contains, you know, endangered species.
A lot of
and
natural resources.
Also natural resources, oil. So now, a year ago, they said, you cannot come here. And so our Philippine patrol, you know, no, you cannot. So para bang, you know, face to face.
Right.
But then a typhoon was coming. And our you know, Department of Foreign Affairs, Albert de Rosario, all right, because the typhoon is coming, let's both withdraw. And China said yes, and we withdrew. But China did not. And they said, no, we never promised. Nako, bulaan.
Bullying tactics.
Bulaan, no, it was terrible. And the last one was last month, when in Ayungin Reef, where we have our old ship, Sierra Madre, that was purposely grounded there, gunships were patrolling so that we cannot bring our food, water, and exchange of Marines, you know. So ito na naman, you know, almost a confrontation. Pero ang galing ng Filipino, na wala, you know, we went some other way, and so we were able to reach them and bring out, you know, exchange. So these are actions that are really very aggressive.
Yeah.
So when the United States and the Philippines signed this defense agreement, it's a sign to China, without ka, we have a big brother behind us. You know, don't play foolish with us.
Well,
so I'm very glad it happened.
What do you think about critics saying that the agreement still has a lot of work to be done on it and it may antagonize China even more?
Oh my God. Nobody can antagonize China as it is now. So with this one, anong gagawin ng China? Oy, puputukan ko kayo. You have to be worried because we have a mutual defense treaty with United States. So they will have to think twice.
Right.
And all of this critic, all our sovereignty, sovereignty my foot. Ito na nga ang China, kinukuha ng oil natin. This agreement is impinging on our sovereignty. So they have to, yung mga nagsasabi nun is, I think has divided loyalties.
Right. Well, you've been lobbying for this, for China, for this aggressiveness against China for a very long time now. In the U.S., in the different consulates, many years ago, you were raising awareness on the issue and trying to get people to lobby it or demonstrate
Yes, actually, we were the first one who demonstrated because a member of our U.S. Pinoys for Good Governance
Yes.
said that an oil rig has been created and it was declared that it's going to go to the West China Sea.
That's when it started.
That's where it
South China
started.
Sea.
So we started the lobby, and when the Commission of Filipino Overseas created this diaspora, I mean, we created it, but it's true there, diaspora of Filipinos all over the world.
Yeah.
So our rally became worldwide, okay, against every Chinese embassy. So I think that has some effect because they still, they're trying, but, they know that there's a very vocal voice in the United States against them.
Right.
In fact, when we declared that, one way to fight China is to boycott China goods. Suddenly, there was a television program in China that says, enemy number one, Loida Nicolas-Lewis.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. So you're on their wanted list, huh?
Sort of. So I don't visit anymore.
Very interesting. Well, now other issues that you've been working on also, you have Medicare portability. Tell us about this.
The groups of Filipinos who came, starting with the Immigration Act of 1965, are now aging. They are reaching retirement age. And the main reason why not many of them come back here is that by 65, we have full Medicare, health benefits. Whatever expenses you have, hospital, heart is diseased and all that, is paid by the U.S. government. But it's not portable, meaning to say it's only within the United States. So we are lobbying very hard to allow us to use our Medicare here. And can you imagine if 200,000, we're 4 million in the United States, if 200,000 come and live here, that is equivalent to a saving of $1 billion from United States. Because our medical expenses are at least 70% cheaper. Okay, so let's say 50%. So it's a big savings for the United States. And for us, we're back in our home country.
Right, so for our retirees coming back here,
Yes.
that's very comforting.
Yes. Anong tanim how sweet is it to live in our home country?
Yeah.
That is the song of Maria Clara in the opera Noli Me Tangere.
Which you are working on now, since I was going to ask you about that, but you did this production in New York.
Yes, it was very successful.
Yeah.
For 3 days, sold out,
Wow.
and the New York Times reviewed us.
Excellent.
It's mixed review, but they reviewed us, so
Still.
we were recognized.
And after 27 years, huh, that...
Here in the United States, here in the Philippines, it was shown in 1987, 100 years anniversary of Noli Me Tangere, when it was published in 1887 in Germany. So it was shown in CCP,
Right.
Cultural Center of the Philippines.
Yes.
So after 27 years, a group of us, Jerry Sibal, Edwin, Joshua, and myself, are crazy enough to say, let's bring it to the Philippines because it is so expensive. For the first time, it will have 35-piece orchestra, opera singers,
Yes.
and it will be done at Resort World from September 12 to September 29 of this year. And so I've been lobbying and asking, the corporations and foundations to come and support it.
That's excellent. You're a patron of the arts also. What do you think of the current time, well, today, where everybody's so in touch with technology, so classic media like this, orchestra, plays, maybe the young are not so in touch with that. How do you feel about the new social media and how...
No, it's great. This is the technological revolution of the 21st century. Just like from 1800s to 1900s, you used to wash clothes, there's washing machine. You used to row banca, there's a steam engine. So industrial revolution during that time. At the turn of this century, it's the technological revolution. This is the age. Even my 2-year-old, wants to Pandora to listen to the music. So it's very, very good.
Yeah.
Okay? Unfortunately, the young people have to remember that there is history also behind this technological history. So they should not be just the modern age.
Right.
They should also look back because if you don't know, ano ba yun? Kung hindi mo marunong, if you don't know how to look back, you don't know how to proceed.
That's true.
Okay, so culture, history, our national hero, Noli Me Tangere, it should be something also within their subconscious or within their conscious mind.
Yes.
So that they know whence they came from, and so they can move forward, you know,
Exactly.
with knowledge and with confidence.
You must understand your past to understand the future and the present,
Exactly,
right? Well, you're
yes.
very passionate about education. You started the Lewis College in Sorsogon. What is that like? How is it now? How has it evolved? Or how do you plan to
Yes. Well,
develop
the
it?
beginning of that was really like a mistake because when my family, you know, my Pastor Francis, my youngest brother, my sister-in-law, Melly Nicolas, Loida, there's a school for sale. Oh, good. Yes, let's buy it.
buy it.
And when I did my due diligence, the school was not for sale. The real estate was for sale. It was foreclosed by the bank. So we're buying it from the bank, not the school, but the land. So I said, no, atras tayo. We are not educators. We, you know, we had a furniture business, Nickfer, my
Yeah.
parents' business, but not school. And so, well, here comes. No, Loida, alam na sa probinsya, nakakahiya, we will lose face. So we started from zero.
Wow.
And instead of starting 1 and 2, grade 3 and 4, we started all at once. Kindergarten, grade 1, first year high school, first year college. But thank God, with good management, especially since my nephew, the son of my pastor, Francis, is here from United States taking care of it. It's grown from 700 to now 1,400.
Excellent. And now you have a new nursing program even.
And also because, you know, nursing is always wanted, but not a nursing degree. It's only for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, we have nursing the 6 months. We have some in London, in Singapore, in New Zealand, in Canada, and some in the United States.
Yes. Well, you yourself are pursuing further education. Your husband and 2 children went to Harvard. So you also said that you want to do some courses in Harvard.
Well, what happened is that my husband is Harvard. My daughter is Harvard. She married somebody from Harvard.
Everybody's from Harvard.
And so when my younger daughter was applying to Harvard, I wanted to know, was she accepted? So I called our contact at Harvard Law School, Dean Scott Nichols. And so he called me the next day and said, well, Loida, you're the only one who will have no Harvard degree. That means to say my daughter was accepted.
Wow, yeah.
So sabi ko, oo nga, ano.
Out of place,
So, oo, sabi ako lang. So, I will not go to school for a degree, but I will get a certificate. So I joined Harvard Business School Owner President Management course, and I do have a certificate from Harvard.
So great, congratulations. Now part of the family. You also recently became part of the Migration Policy Institute. What exactly are you doing?
This is an organization for the past 10 years that studied the movement of people and what policy should be adopted by governments. And since, you know, my sister, Loida Nicolas, is in the diaspora Commission of Filipino Overseas, she thought that I should be member of this because it sets policies on how do you get the movement of people more efficient, because you cannot help it. People are free to move around.
Yes.
But how can you encourage the movement of one group of professionals into another country that's needed by that country? You know, something like that.
Right. How do you feel about the Filipino diaspora? I mean, one of our biggest exports, of course, are OFWs. What is it that Filipinos really need to be aware of when they're living around the world and, you know, coming back to their countries? There's a lot of exchange of culture ideas. What should we really, I guess, what part of our Filipino culture should we be holding up there? Or
Okay.
bring
Well,
back?
first of all, I'm sure that they will not go out unless that's the only way for them to lift up their economic status, except for those who fall in love, like me. So what is my advice to them? You know, keep the good part of your being Filipino. And for me, that's your being spiritual, your belief that God loves you and He will not let bad things happen to you if you follow His will. So faith in God. Number 2, we are also hardworking. When we are abroad, oh my God, you know, we work 24/7. Well, we are very hardworking. And the third one, we have such heart. Okay, we consider the people we're serving like family.
Right.
Okay, meron tayong anong tawag doon? Malasakit. Okay. So all of that, we have a very good reputation as workers abroad.
Good thought. Well, we have so much more to talk about. We just have to take a short break. News Cafe will be back after these messages. And now let's talk about your art collection.
This is a gift by my husband. This is an amor solo. But you know, he went to New York. He didn't go to Paris.
Yeah.
If he did, he would have been Cubist.
Yeah.
Because this was during the time of Picasso and
Yes.
Braque. Okay, so my husband, because amor solo went to New York,
1985.
many Americans bought. And by the time in 1992, some of them wanted to dispose of it.
Yeah.
And my husband gave it to me on Mother's Day, actually.
Wow, beautiful.
1992. And this is I said, go to Sorsogon. I want you to paint something that
So you
like."
commissioned this?
They commissioned this one. So these are all, you know, his wife, his father, Jose Blanco's father, Jose Blanco's father. These are his children during the time. And I said, I want my father included. Okay? And that's my father.
Which
When
one, the
he
one
was
with the hat?
25,
Or-
yes.
Wow.
When he was 25, I gave him a picture of my father when he was 25 years old. So this is the Sorsogon Bay.
That is really beautiful. So
1935.
much meaning in your painting. So
Yes.
it really brings you back home. Welcome back to News Cafe on the Solar News Channel. We're still talking to Attorney Loida Nicolas-Lewis. So Mrs. Lewis, give us some of your top tips maybe for raising children, especially since you were a single mother, raising them. What would you say is the best advice?
Well, I think the first thing that as a mother that I am very conscious of is that not to have too many don'ts. As I said before, you know, choose the things that are important to you, and then that's what you transmit to your daughter, to my two daughters. So when I came down to it, I said this, you know, a simple way, and in fact, I tell them when I speak before young people, 3 things. First, set your goal. Okay.
Yes.
Secondly, obedience to a code of ethics. And thirdly, determination to do what you want to do. So even as a mother, those are my 3 things. And for your children, you know, set your goals. You're gonna graduate. You're going to be, you know, top of your class or whatever. Obedient to do not do to others what you don't want to do, the golden rule.
Yes.
Obedience to a code of ethics.
Right.
And then you will always be, there will always be failure along the way. But don't get discouraged. Just keep going no matter what. So as a mother, I think I have been able to imply that
Yes.
to my 2 daughters.
And what wonderful daughters you have. One is working with the Wall Street Journal. Is that right?
Well, my
That's
youngest
Christina.
one worked with Wall Street Journal, but 3 years ago she quit over a principal because there's a new owner, Robert Murdoch.
Ah,
But she became
Ethics.
yes, she became a you know, magazine writer. But
Right.
now, what's so impressive about her is that she started thinking, if my father were alive today, where would he go? Because, you know, 40, 50 years ago, he went to Harvard Law School because Rockefeller Fund created a summer school program for very talented African-American men and women in college. And that's where the father was able to get into that summer program, and then the rest is history. He graduated from Harvard. He had a
Right.
stamp of approval. So he asked the professor, if my father were alive today,
yeah.
where would he go? Law, medicine? He said he would be in technology. So my daughter created a not-for-profit all-star code that will zero in on talented African-American and Latino high school boys
Wonderful.
and train them to be entrepreneurial and innovative. And because of that, she was cited by the White House Champions for Change.
Excellent.
And now she just told me she's in the semifinals for a grant of money by, you know, foundations and the president, my brother's keeper,
Wow.
to win a certain amount if she is chosen among the 40 innovative.
Maybe she can do that for Filipino scholars also,
Yes,
including the
yes.
minorities.
People of color.
Yes,
People of
yes.
color.
Wonderful. Well, you also, speaking of, you talked about Obama again. You are supporting President Obama now.
I
but-
supported him in his re-election.
Right.
And also in the first election.
Yes, and
when he
Noy Noy.
won the primary.
Yes, but first you were supporting
Hillary Clinton during the primary.
Yes. So you were also for President Noy Noy Aquino. You were also very supportive.
Well, we campaigned very hard for him because, you know, I have lived in the United States for more than 40 years. And what hurts me is that during all that time, the Philippines is considered top 10 most corrupt country.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a businesswoman, when I speak with international, investors, Philippines, oh no, bad address. We're considered the sick man of Asia, and I'm
Yes.
sick of that.
Yeah.
So when President Noynoy, when he was senator, when he declared his candidacy, my sister, my entire family worked for him. I worked for him in the United States. So when he won, thank God, look at us now. We have become investment grade, triple B. So we are paying less taxes. Our Secretary of Finance has been #1, the best finance minister in the world. Not only 1 year, since 2010, 4 years. And our GDP is in the 7%.
Right.
So the Philippines is up there because of a very honest president.
And what are your thoughts on all of this PDAF in the pork barrel scam? Despite all
Thank
of
God
that.
lumabas.
Okay, at least.
Because alam natin na meron talagang kalukuhan. So only under President Noynoy will something like this come up and people will be brave enough to say, yan, magnanakaw yan.
So there's so much frustration because people are losing hope. But when you're saying when this is happening, at least we're moving forward somehow.
Under Dinky Soliman, the direct transfer, because really they are very, very, very poor. I live in Sorsogon.
Yes.
Some of them, my students cannot even pay, they are scholars. They don't even have enough money to pay for their daily life,
Right.
So I know that there is poverty. And so this policy of giving cash transfers, if you send your children to school, if you take, when you're pregnant, you take, vitamins, you take care of
Prenatal,
yourself, you see to it that your house is clean. There are certain conditions, then you will get 1,500.
Yes.
That's very helpful.
Yes. Well, elections are coming up. Any candidates that you might be supporting for 2016?
Okay. The 6 years of President Noynoy is really not enough. The institutions are not strong enough. He needs another 6 years. But the Constitution is against that. So we must elect a second term for President Noynoy through the person that he will support.
You think so? His approval ratings have been going down.
But it's still 65%, the highest. Barack Obama is already in the 50s, but he is 65. After 3 years, that's very, very good.
Right.
And for me, the real goal is continue what he has done. Because it has rest up. I mean, the Philippines is now, it's no longer the BRIC. We are the Peru, Philippines, Indonesia, and I
Emerging
can't
nations,
remember.
yes, we are
We are
emerging
now
countries.
going up in this world. Investment are coming in. So it must continue. We don't want to go back to corruption.
That's right.
And this PDAF, in fact, I am so scared. Wait until 2016. Yung mga
Waiting, yung mga candidates waiting.
It will be our time again. Happy days are here again. So, I am praying that the Filipinos in the Philippines will be smart enough to say, we want the way Noynoy is running it. Okay, let's give him a second term. So whoever he appoints, we should elect.
Okay. And now in the U.S., you're going to be supporting Hillary Clinton.
Ready for Hillary?
Yeah, back to Hillary all the way.
Yes.
Any chance you might be running, because you're very active in politics. I'm sure people might be thinking you would be a great candidate for politics, whether in the U.S. or the Philippines.
I always tell people, please don't wish me evil.
You're
No.
happy with the way
Politics
things...
is not in the cards.
No.
I'm doing what I can, what I see it's best, and I'm not hampered by pleasing some interest groups. So I'm better off where I am.
Right. And you're able to spend more time with the family also, huh?
Well, I babysit for my younger daughter, my younger grandson, Calvin, every Tuesday. And when Leslie needs me, because she's in this Arnold, this is the fitness competition,
Wow.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
She is a yoga teacher. So I fly to Naples, Florida, because I have 2 grandchildren there, Christian and Sevilla. And I am so, so proud of my daughter and my son-in-law, Gavin, because they adopted 2 babies from Rwanda 8 years
Wonderful.
ago.
Yeah.
And they are my grandchildren.
Yeah.
No distinction.
Right. And I hear one of them is also now into acting.
Both of
into
them
music and
actually are
acting.
in
follow
Beauty
their
and the
mothers.
Beast.
Wow,
Yes,
following
they're
the
not
mother's
they're not the
footsteps.
main actors,
But
but they're
still.
there. They enjoy acting.
Yeah, and I hear you do a mean chicken dish, which they love. You have this recipe from the I Hate to Cook cookbook. Because you said you didn't really like to cook.
Very good research, I don't really cook. In fact, for my husband, he was thankful. He only eats certain kinds, fried chicken, steak, and for my grandchildren, spaghetti,
Yeah.
sinigang. So nothing complicated.
Yeah.
But when I'm sometimes my daughter asks me, please come. So I'm cooked, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then my cookbook is, I hate to cook.
I should get that. You also do yoga. What do you do in your downtime? What do you do to relax?
Yes, I do. Yes, the yoga. I'm, through my daughter, she gave me a gift of 20 lessons of yoga, and I've been
Wow.
taking that. I love going to musicals, to Broadway shows,
Yeah.
to opera, and going to movies because, as you know, we grew up with the movie theater, Loida Theater.
Yeah.
So going to movies is one. And reading books.
Yeah.
I finally have the Kindle.
Yes.
So that the books are there, and I can have 3, 4, 5 books that I can read every now and then.
You're also quite a piano player, right? You're into very much
Well,
of music.
from St. Agnes,
Yeah.
the teachers, the German teachers were very good. So I'm not a widow player. When you hear you can play, I can only play what I learned in high school, and I still play them.
Now, since it is Mother's Day, being a mother, phenomenal woman, I'd like to ask you, you've been through so much in your life, and you've accomplished quite a lot. What would you say is your secret to happiness, to making this life meaningful?
Well, the secret really is trying to align your will with God. So every morning I do pray. I do keep quiet for 15 minutes. It's called Zen practice, just counting your breath, and then reading what the Mass says, and having a journal. Because in the journal, you write your prayer to God for that day based on whatever it is in the Mass. And then it's an Ignatian practice. You look at the day before, what made you happy? Consolation. What made you sad? Desolation. And then you write it down. And normally, because I am a, optimistic character, it's usually always good. Okay? But then, when I do something, I write it down. I'm sorry. I did this and that. I wish I could do it better. So, what is my secret? It is my connection with the Lord. And then if you walk with God, as Psalm 1 said, Psalm number 1, anyone who fears the Lord is like water, fresh water. And the trees will always be green. They'll always give fruit in due season. And whatever they do will prosper.
Oh, very inspiring indeed. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Loida Nicolas-Lewis. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Mitzi.
And that's News Cafe for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to thank my guest once again, Attorney Loida Nicolas-Lewis. If you have any comments on our show, please do share them on our Facebook or Twitter pages, and you may download the Solar mobile app on your mobile devices to catch up on our past episodes or to watch Solar programs live. Join us again next Thursday for another round of discussions. I'm Mitzi Borromeo. Good evening. Busy schedule. She sometimes babysits her 3 grandchildren who call her Nanay. Attorney Loida Nicolas-Lewis is a remarkable woman who has surpassed many obstacles life has given her, to which she credits her personal relationship with God and the support of her family. Good evening. You're watching News Cafe on the Solar News Channel. Tonight, in celebration of Mother's Day, we have with us a phenomenal woman who has raised the bar high and broken barriers for women and Filipinos around the world. She is a lawyer, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, social civic leader, author, mother, and grandmother. We have with us tonight Attorney Loida Nicolas-Lewis. Good evening, Mrs. Lewis.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for letting us into your home to interview you.
Thank you, Mitzi.
Now, there's many superlatives when it comes to, you have broken barriers in every sense of the word. And namely, after graduating from the Philippine bar, you went to the United States without studying law there. And also, you were the first Asian woman to pass the bar. What was that experience like?
If you are a non-citizen, before 1974, you could not take the bar.
Yeah.
But because the Supreme Court of the United States said that citizenship is not a qualification to take the bar, I was the first Filipino who applied immediately, because University of the Philippines is one of 2 universities, College of Law, that's accepted in New York.
Yes.
So what was it like? Well, I knew I had to pass it the first time because I just had a baby, Leslie, my
Yes.
oldest child, and I had to exile her to Baltimore. That's around 3 months, so that I could study 24, not 24/7, but
Right.
16, 17 hours a day. And if I don't pass it, I don't want to exile her again.
Yeah.
So I really studied hard,
So
and I
there's
passed the first
a
time.
little bit of a sacrifice you had to do as a mother in order to pass the bar.
Yes.
Now, did you have aspirations always of studying in the U.S.? I mean, you came from Sorsogon. So when you were a child, were you dreaming of traveling the world?
No, not at all. My father, who was, modest means, he was a scholar in high school and in UP, wanted to be a lawyer. So his dream for me was to be the lawyer of the family out of 5 children, going to politics, so that he even named the movie theater when I was 9 years old after me, Loida Theater.
Wow.
So when I go into politics, I will have name recognition. So my life was sort of, geared by my father. Going to the United States was like a gift when I became a lawyer. My sister, my younger sister, was taking masters at Columbia Art School when she graduated. And so when I finished law and I became a lawyer, my father said, okay, round the world trip with your mother, come back to the Philippines, then we'll start your career.
Wonderful.
So going to the United States or even studying there or even marrying was not in the cards.
Yes. And this is where you met Reginald Lewis, of course. I heard you met him on a blind date
Yes.
in the U.S.
Yes.
So it was love at first sight?
No. I don't fall in love easily. I was working because we arrived September and my sister was graduating in May. So what do? At that time, it was not too strict. Even if I had a tourist visa, I started to work in a civil rights law firm. And my boss was from Harvard Law School. I introduced him to my sister, and he was going out on a date. Loida, do you want to go out on a date? Blind date? And I said, sure, why not? Adventure.
Yeah.
And so that's when he called Reginald Lewis, a classmate of his at Harvard Law School. And the funny thing, somebody like him, I won't meet again.
Yeah.
You
As
know?
you said, he was very intense, and so were you. So
Yes,
it's
yes,
almost
but
like
he
a
was
mirror
more
of
intense.
yourself.
He
Yes.
was more intense.
Right,
Not so much a mirror, better than me. His ambition was higher than mine.
Yeah.
His vision, he can go around the corner, the next corner. Ako narito pa lang.
Yeah.
And then he's more intensive, very intense.
You called him a tutor. He taught you a lot of things.
Well, in the sense that I'm a good student. So I listened to him because he's really better than I am. And so I learned, I changed, I was more or less go.
Yeah.
But with him, I became a woman.
Well, behind every great man is a greater woman, they say. So he said you were his confidant. You gave him a lot of advice with the business.
No, it's not like that. He's not someone who says, who says, what do you think? It's always he will talk. And then when I think there's a proper time to give my advice, I would not advise. It's really just my thoughts.
Right.
Okay? And then he would listen. In fact, at one time, when the deal was getting so hard, this is the Beatrice deal, and it's almost, falling through. I said, don't worry, darling. You'll make it. And I said, what do you know about the deal business? I said, I don't know anything, but I know you'll get it through.
Yeah.
Okay, so, it's not so much advice. It's really encouraging him. Being an
Right.
African American in America, it's tough.
Yes.
So he will constantly receive, subtle put-downs, insults, actual discrimination. So as his wife, I have to be sort of like, give him the confidence.
The support.
Even if I think he should not have said that, he said it already.
Yeah.
So, you say, no, that was good. Don't worry about it.
Parang sa bukod, hindi na ba nakasalanan ng dito?
This corruption in media would introduce
This woman from Sorsogon is a force to be reckoned with. After her husband passed away, Loida Nicolas-Lewis was left to take charge of his multi-billion business, TLC Beatrice International Holdings Incorporated. She became its CEO and chairman. Coming from a family of entrepreneurs, she has successfully managed the corporation of 64 companies based in 31 countries. Her success won her recognition by Working Woman magazine in 1994 as #1 in their top 50 women business owners in America. As a lawyer, she was the first Asian and first Filipino to take the American bar and pass. Later in her career, she worked as an immigrations lawyer at the Immigration and Naturalization Services for 10 years. It was while working for them that she thought of writing books on immigrations law. As a Filipina, she recognized the plight of every Filipino residing in the U.S. and has founded several organizations, including National Federation of Filipino American Associations and U.S. Pinoys for Good Governance. One of her present advocacies is fighting the aggressiveness of China towards the Philippine territories.
China, the sleeping dragon, has awakened, and they need oil.
She has 2 daughters with her late husband, Leslie and Christina. After the death of her husband, Loida was left to take care of their children and be their mother and their father, always making sure that she had time to spend with them despite her
Is that he almost didn't make it. He said, you know, as a lawyer, you work so hard. You don't have time really for anything. But when he said, when my boss said, oh, that's too bad, you cannot come. You know, she's from the Philippines. So Reginald-Lewis said, wait, I have never dated an Oriental before. I'm coming.
It was an adventure also for him.
It's an adventure. He's always ready for new things.
Right. And the rest is history, because after that, you had to return to the Philippines.
Well, actually, after 7 months, we decided to get married. No. We met in December. We decided we'll marry in May, around May. But then I got cold feet. Because then, oh my God, I'm going to leave my country, my family, my friends, my ambition.
Right.
And so I said, no, I can't go through with it.
Yeah.
So my sister and I were going back to Manila. And on the way, I was just so sad because I know in my heart, having studied in UP College of Law, Jojo Binay was my classmate. Franklin Dillon was in my, Miriam Defensor, I was with the best of the best.
Yeah.
And having been in UP and having met Reginald-Lewis, I knew he was special. And so just on the way to San Francisco, I was so sad. And even in fact, meeting my friends, UP in Stanford, Melly was, Loida, ano ka ba naman? Because I wasn't talking. Talagang very dark. And one of my friends, Jerry Hill, he had died already, said, Loida, if you're that sad, why don't you just call him? I never thought of that. Tawag ako, darling, I'm coming back.
Yeah, you once said when it comes to the head and the heart wins. This is
Not
what happened
always,
to you.
but in this case, it did.
Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I knew in my heart that,